Before we dive into this intriguing tale of tradition and transformation, let me tell you about our weekly contest. Listen closely for the magic word hidden in this story. Comment with it below for a chance to win exciting prizes each week. But were they truly happy, or was their joy clouded by rigid traditions? What defines happiness in a community bound by strict norms? In a peaceful village named Kuru, everyone lived joyfully long ago. But were they truly happy, or was their joy clouded by rigid traditions? What defines happiness in a community bound by strict norms? The village was encircled by towering, vibrant trees, and the inhabitants adhered to unique customs. Do you believe traditions like these should still hold such power today? Are they a protective shield or a restrictive barrier for progress? A crucial rule was that all the girls needed to maintain their purity. In other words, they had to stay virgins until they married. This regulation held great significance for the Kuru people, and they ensured that all the girls adhered to it diligently. The parents in Kuru took great pride in this tradition, holding a strong belief that their daughters were pure, and valuing this conviction immensely. Frequently, they would brag to each other, claiming statements such as, "My daughter is chaste, just like every girl in our village." It was a matter of pride and esteem for them, reflecting their proper upbringing and regard for their traditions. Yet, one day, something unanticipated occurred. The inevitable clash between tradition and change manifested. But where do you stand? Should tradition always be preserved, or is change sometimes necessary? A dreadful calamity struck the village, and to remove this curse of misfortune, it was disclosed that only a genuine virgin could provide the remedy. There was also a pledge that the chaste maiden assisting with the sacrifice would wed the prince, and her family would be granted numerous gifts and wealth. Thrilled by the possibility of their daughters marrying into royalty, every parent eagerly took their daughters to the palace. They were confident that their daughters were pure, motivated to claim the reward and bring harmony back to the village. Was this calamity merely a result of broken customs, or was it a sign for the village to rethink their way of life? As the spectators assembled, Abaj moved ahead with a big pot in his grasp. He spoke to all, stating, "This pot contains a unique necklace consecrated by the gods. Only a genuine virgin maiden can extract it. This is the challenge the gods have presented to identify those who will bear the sacrifice." If this part of the story resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for a deep dive into narratives like this. The girls stood in line anxiously as their parents observed with assurance. One after another, the girls plunged their hands into the pot, yet each time they came out empty-handed. The atmosphere became charged as the first girl attempted, followed by the second, and so forth. Every girl returned without any findings, and the whispers among the crowd intensified. What would you have done if faced with such a test? Would you uphold tradition at any cost? Next, it was the moment for the chief's daughters, celebrated for their elegance and attractiveness. Don't forget, the magic word is transformation. Comment to enter our contest. The eldest daughter advanced with assurance, yet she also failed to locate the necklace. The second daughter attempted, but also did not succeed. In the end, the youngest daughter reached in with trembling hands, yet she too came up empty. The villagers were astonished. Murmurs permeated the atmosphere. How is this possible? Not even the daughters of the chief? The elders shared anxious looks, bewildered and troubled. They had always thought the girls in the village were innocent, preserving the traditions they valued. But now it appeared that something had gone horribly amiss. The news about the unsuccessful test circulated rapidly throughout the village, leading to disbelief and astonishment. The girls began yelling, "It's not our blame, it's Auntie Isaime." As speculation spread, focus shifted to Isaime, the newcomer from the city. The villagers started to whisper, holding her accountable for the turmoil and bad luck that had struck their formerly tranquil community. "She arrived and disrupted everything," an older woman murmured. "Our daughters adhered to traditions. Now, just see what has occurred." A different villager concurred, stating, "Isaime introduced urban customs to our village. She caused the girls to lose their sense of identity." Thus, the tale unfolds. Many years ago, a girl named Isaime visited her aunt in the village of Kuru. Isaime hailed from the bustling city, and she was exceptionally beautiful. She frequently donned vibrant and exposing outfits that attracted everyone's attention. Isaime strolled through the village with assurance, as if she were a queen, and all eyes were on her, particularly those of the men. As Isaime strolled past, the men would murmur, "Wow, check her out. She's incredibly beautiful." The village girls observed her as well. They praised her style and elegance, yearning to emulate her. "I wish I could wear outfits like Isaime," exclaimed one girl. Another girl remarked, "She appears so self-assured and beautiful." The girls in the village knew little about Isaime, yet they were intrigued by her. They appreciated her uniqueness and the thrill she brought. Isaime's vibrant attire and assured stride were unprecedented in their experience. They began to contemplate what it must feel like to receive all the admiration that Isaime had. "Isaime is amazing," exclaimed one of the girls. "I aspire to be just like her." Thus they observed her intently, wishing to discover more about her and perhaps emulate her one day. However, they were unaware that Isaime harbored a secret that could transform everything in the village. Isaime possessed a secret that nobody in the village was aware of. The men who appreciated her attractiveness were presenting her with gifts and money, but it wasn't solely because of her looks. Isaime was secretly meeting with these men, and in return for their offerings, she engaged with them in ways that the village would disapprove of. One day, Asabi, the chief's daughter, grew curious about why Isaime consistently appeared to possess new items and wealth. Asabi chose to discreetly trail Isaime to uncover the situation. She observed Isaime conversing with a man in a secluded area, and afterward, Isaime left with a small bag of cash. Asabi was astonished and pondered, "Oh, so this is Isaime's hidden truth. The men provide her presents for being with them." She contemplated whether she could receive gifts as well. Asabi had consistently been a well-behaved girl, adhering to the village's regulations, but now she felt inquisitive. She desired to feel unique, similar to how Isaime felt. The following day, Asabi noticed a young trader who had been watching her for some time. She made up her mind to attempt what she had observed Isaime doing. Asabi spoke with the merchant and decided to arrange a secret meeting with him. The trader presented her with presents and cash, just as he had with Isaime. Asabi was thrilled and sensed her uniqueness. "This is so simple," she mused. "I can also obtain lovely items." She felt as though she had unearthed something incredible and was eager to share it with her friends. She was unaware that this secret would lead to significant transformations in the village. Asabi was unable to withhold her finding from others. She shared with her friends Isaime's secret and how simple it was to receive gifts and cash from men. You just need to spend time with them, and they provide you with nice things. Her friends were initially surprised as she described it, but they soon became intrigued as well. Before long, Additional girls in the village began to imitate Isime's behavior. They started using cosmetics and choosing outfits that would attract the men's notice. The girls wished to feel unique and receive presents similar to Isime and Asabi. They murmured to one another, "If Isime and Asabi are capable, why aren't we?" Isime observed the shift in the village girls and recognized a chance. She began arranging meetings between the women and the men, taking a portion of the gifts and cash that the women obtained. Isime instructed them, "I'll arrange everything, and all you need to do is be pleasant to the men." The girls had faith in her and adhered to her guidance. The girls enjoyed the praise and presents they received from the men. They felt unique and appreciated the new items they could purchase with the money. They began to overlook the village's significant customs of maintaining purity and honoring themselves. The thrill of getting presents caused them to overlook the principles they were raised with. As additional girls participated, it resembled an exclusive club. They concealed everything from their parents and the village leaders. The girls believed they were simply enjoying themselves, but they were unaware of the difficulties they were entering. The secret was circulating, and it was transforming the village in ways nobody anticipated. With the passage of time, an increasing number of girls in the village began attending Isime's clandestine gatherings with the men. What started as some girls looking for presents evolved into a widespread custom. The girls were meeting with the men not only for the gifts now, but for the attention and thrill it provided them. They experienced a sense of being valued and unique, and that emotion became more significant than the presents themselves. The village leaders and guardians were unaware of what was occurring. They went on with their everyday routines, convinced that the village's customs were still upheld. The elders frequently talked about the value of purity and respect, believing that the girls were attentive and adhering to their lessons. They were unaware that the long-standing custom of maintaining the girls' purity until marriage was being violated. The girls managed to keep the secret tightly concealed. They behaved typically with their families, going to village events and helping with daily tasks. But in private, they led a contrasting life, one that defied the values upheld by the village. The taboo of secretly meeting men had turned into a common practice among the village girls. They were no longer burdened by shame or guilt over their actions. Rather, they viewed it as a lifestyle, one that provided them with freedom and recognition. They had strayed significantly from the principles they were raised with, and the previously sturdy customs were subtly deteriorating, overlooked by the older generation and caregivers. One day, a dreadful incident occurred in the village of Kuru. Plants started to decay, their leaves becoming brown and arid. The creatures, typically brimming with vitality, began to fall ill and perish. Most concerning of all, the villagers started to experience hardship. Numerous individuals became unwell with unusual symptoms that had never been observed before. It was a gloomy and terrifying period for all. The villagers felt frightened and bewildered. They were unaware of the reason behind the abrupt calamity. They believed they had consistently honored their traditions and revered the gods. In search of answers, they chose to seek out the oracle, Agaj, renowned for his insight and ties to the spiritual realm. The villagers assembled at Abaj's house, their expressions marked by concern. The elders were the first to speak, detailing the circumstances and inquiring of Agaj how they might halt the curse. Agaj paid close attention, his eyes shut as though he was lost in contemplation. Following a prolonged silence, he at last uttered words. "The gods are furious," Abaj stated, his tone grave. "They are unhappy with the village because the customs have been violated. The innocence that was once cherished has been diminished. To placate the deities, a significant offering must be given. 2 pure maidens are required to deliver the offering to the holy altar. The villagers were astonished. The concept of sacrifice was grave, but even graver was the reference to virgin maidens. The village elders, who had always thought that all the young girls were innocent, appeared concerned. They believed that their customs had been observed, but now their confidence had wavered. Agaj went on. The offering needs to be completed in 2 days. Otherwise, the curse will become more powerful, bringing additional pain to the village. The villagers departed from Abaj's house, their hearts burdened with worry. They realized they needed to move fast to locate 2 untouched maidens for the offering. The village had consistently boasted about the innocence of its girls, but now, with the unusual conduct of recent months, uncertainties started to arise in their thoughts. The one firm conviction in their customs was disturbed, and the burden of the curse hung over everyone. Thus, the following morning, the town crier strolled through the village, tolling his bell and calling out, "All young maidens, gather at the palace. Come to the palace, all young maidens." His voice resonated through the streets, and before long, every household heard the summons. The villagers understood that this concerned the significant sacrifice Agaj had mentioned. Thus, the next day, all the daughters and their families arrived at the palace. When Agaj conducted the virgin pot test for all the girls, it was revealed that no girl in the village remained a virgin. Isime had transformed them into sex workers. Despite her influence, was Isime truly to blame, or was she a scapegoat for the village's deeper issues? If that's the case, kindly like the video, share your thoughts on what you learned from the story, and remember to subscribe to the channel for more captivating stories like this one. Don't miss out on these incredible narratives. Subscribe now to unlock exclusive insights and stories only for our valued subscribers. Abaj's voice interrupted the lengthy quiet of the tale. "The gods observe all," he stated seriously. "The fury is evident. We need to keep looking, because without the offering, the curse cannot be removed." The villagers understood the gravity of the matter. The innocence they once assumed was lost, and the girls meant to embody the village's honor and customs had not passed the evaluation. Now, they confronted the harsh truth that locating the suitable maidens could be more challenging than they anticipated. The burden of the curse felt more oppressive than ever, and the village was enveloped in an air of fear and urgency. Do you believe Isime's punishment was justified? Share this story with 3 friends who appreciate exploring cultural dilemmas like this. Responsibility swiftly fell on Isime, who had turned into the embodiment of all that had gone amiss. The villagers thought that her influence had misled the girls, making them forsake their traditions and invoke the anger of the gods against them. The elders nodded their heads, overwhelmed with frustration and discontent. Isime's parents, residing in the city, quickly learned of the trouble their daughter had created. They felt astonished and embarrassed. Her father, a strict man who valued discipline, was enraged. "We should have raised her properly," he exclaimed, his voice brimming with remorse. "We were too permissive, and now she's embarrassed us." Isime's mother, who frequently supported her daughter's choices, experienced profound sorrow. "I should have been tougher," she confessed. "I allowed her to have her way, since she was our sole child. Now observe the chaos she has created." While the villagers kept discussing, Isime sensed the burden of their accusations. She understood the consequences of her actions and the difficulties she had created. The girl who was once celebrated in the city became viewed as the source of all issues in Kuru. The villagers insisted that she accept accountability, as they thought she was the one who had guided their daughters to violate the sacred customs. The village was in chaos, and the accusations against Isime became increasingly burdensome with each day that went by. Her impact had swayed the girls from their principles, and now the village was dealing with the fallout. The elders concluded that action needed to be taken to bring back order and reconcile with the gods. The village's destiny depended on the forthcoming events, and everyone was watching Isime to observe how she would confront the outcomes of her choices. The villagers and elders convened to determine the necessary actions. With no untouched maidens available and the curse lingering over the village, they looked to Isime, the one they thought responsible for this calamity. The choice was made. Isime would bear the sacrifice by herself as atonement for the turmoil she had initiated. This forced Isime to face the village, experiencing a blend of dread and remorse. She gazed at the expressions of the villagers, each one filled with anger and disappointment. Her parents, who hastily came from the city, stood by helplessly. They were unable to shield her from the results of her behavior. The oracle, Ugbaji, gave her the calabash filled with offerings for the deities. "You need to carry this to the holy altar in the woods," he instructed. "You will travel by yourself. This is your responsibility." With the weighty calabash on her head, Isime set out on her journey. She strolled through the village, ignoring the disapproving glances and murmurs of the locals. Upon stepping into the thick forest, she sensed a deep solitude. The trees surrounded her, making the path increasingly difficult. For 2 days, she journeyed without a break, her feet sore and her mood weighed down. While she strolled, Isime reflected on all that had transpired. She recalled the thrill and admiration she garnered from the men, how the village girls looked up to her and aspired to be like her. She came to understand how superficial and temporary that attention had been. It had misled everyone, diverting them from the values and customs that had maintained the village's safety and happiness. Tears flowed down Isime's cheeks as she continued walking. She experienced profound remorse for the damage she had inflicted, not only on herself, but on the whole village. She realized at this point that her choices had repercussions, and those repercussions caused pain to all. At last, tired and worn out, Isime arrived at the holy altar hidden in the woods. She set the calabash on the altar and knelt in front of it, pleading with the gods for mercy. She wished for the curse to be removed and for the village to experience tranquility once more. At that moment, Isime experienced the complete burden of her choices and the hurt they had inflicted. As she got up to walk away, a feeling of calm acceptance enveloped her. She understood that she had to confront whatever was ahead with bravery, even if it required being apart from her family and the life she was familiar with. Isime's expedition was more than just a physical trek. It was a path of awakening and atonement, and she wished that the village could somehow recover from the harms her deeds had inflicted. Upon finishing her journey, Isime came back to the village. While she strolled through the woods and re-entered Kuru, she felt a shift in the atmosphere. The villagers assembled, observing her with a blend of relief and residual anger. The plants that had dried up began to display signs of vitality once more, and the ill animals started to heal. The curse was gone, yet the repercussions for Isime were just beginning. The elders gathered in front of the village, and Ugbaji declared, "The gods have received the sacrifice," he stated. "The curse is removed, but Isime must confront the repercussions of her deeds. She is not allowed to exit the village for 12 years. At this time, she will be tasked with delivering all offerings to the deities." The villagers nodded in consensus. They felt relief that the curse was over, but continued to harbor bitterness towards Izime. As part of her punishment, Izime was assigned a tiny hut close to the shrine, separated from the rest of the community. The villagers shunned her, and she was regarded as an outcast. Izime dedicated her days to performing her responsibilities, making offerings, and upkeeping the shrine. She resided alone, contemplating the decisions she had taken and the lives she had impacted. The formerly cheerful and spirited girl from the city had now become a mere reflection of her past, weighed down by the consequences of her previous choices. At the same time, the village was striving to revive their customs. They emphasized the significance of purity and adherence to their cultural values to safeguard their way of life. The elders ruled that no one from the city could enter Kuru. They aimed to prevent the past errors from happening again. Isimi's tale turned into a warning for the youth of Kuru. Parents would share stories about the girl who arrived from the city and caused problems in their village. They talked about the significance of honoring traditions and making wise decisions. Isimi's existence acted as a cautionary tale about the outcomes of deviating from the values of respect and honor. For 12 arduous years, Isime stayed in the village, solitary and detached. She carried the burden of her actions and the awareness that she had brought disgrace upon herself and her family. Her punishment was not solely a physical ordeal, but also a profound emotional and spiritual journey. She discovered that genuine beauty and value arise from within, emphasizing the importance of honoring one's culture and traditions. Over the years, the village gradually recovered, but the recollection of past events lingered with them. Isime's tale was shared across generations, serving as a lesson in humility, respect, and the significance of making prudent choices. The conclusion was sorrowful for Izime, yet it served as a valuable lesson for the community of Kuru, highlighting the significance and resilience of their cultural traditions. And wait till you see our next video. We'll explore a tale of rebellion versus duty that will leave you questioning what truly matters.